Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Ken, good morning. Happy Wednesday. Happy New Year.
Good morning and happy hump day to you as well. And also a happy new year to you. Can you believe that we're already 11 days into the new
I,
year?
I
It's
cannot
here.
feel like the holidays were just yesterday, but it's already, we're already middle of January. So we're off to a quick, fast start. Hopefully a good one.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, looking forward to 2023. Kind of glad that 2022 is in the rearview mirror. So it's a whole new year.
Feels absolutely. So, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm actually quite excited about today's topic of discussion. And for everyone watching, we're just going to get to know Ken New for who he is, which I'm stoked about because you're an all star. So, Ken, who is Ken New? What is your story? Where did you grow up? Tell us about your family, your hometown, your lifestyle, education, background. Give us all the deets about it.
Sure. Yeah, when I saw the subject for our talk today, I thought, oh boy, we're kind of like going backwards here a little bit. We talked all last year about all these fun things that are going on, like tax law changes and economics and high inflation, crazy stuff going on there. And it really had some good stories and conversations around that. But it is maybe somewhat helpful to get to know where I come from and what my background is and who I am and so on. So I'll dive into that. I'm a farm boy. I was born and raised in the great state of Montana. And when you grow up in a place like Montana in the 1960s and 70s and 80s, it's a different world there today, not immensely like some of the big cities, but it was a very simple life. I lived in the Bighorn Valley. That's where Custer's Last Stand is. I went to high school there. My world was just where you could get to by foot or by car, and you were always attached to the land. We farmed, we sugar beet farmed, and so that was the lifestyle all through the end of my high school years. And it was a good learning experience. You learn how to get up early and work hard all day and do that type of thing. But my goal was to not farm. My goal was to go off and do something different. In fact, I wanted to get an accounting degree, go to law school, and I wanted to do something very cerebral. I wanted to, help people and know the laws, and I always thought that was important. And so I had a scholarship to play baseball at Rocky Mountain College in Billings, Montana, and lo and behold, they canceled the program before I could even start my freshman year. So there was one of those first, at the time, of course, it was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
this just changed my world. How am I going to pay for, college? My mother and father had been divorced for many years. We were poor. Of course, I didn't really know that living in Montana. Everybody was poor. It didn't really, so the economics didn't work out for me. So I said, okay, well, geez, what am I going to do here? And I decided, well, I'm going to put myself through college. So I decided to go ahead and work and get whatever loans that I could, and everything was available. And I got to Montana State University, and the summer of between freshman and sophomore year, I looked around and I said, geez, working for $1.65 an hour doesn't really accumulate a lot of money. And I started doing the numbers, and I thought a whole summer of working doesn't get me where I wanted to go. So I'd heard that they were building the Trans-Alaska Pipeline in Alaska. And that Trans-Alaska Pipeline was a huge opportunity because they were paying people up there $10 an hour. And so I had reconnected with my dad, and he said, hey, there's a trucker that's coming up. He was already up there. Come on up. You can stay the summer and, see where it all goes from there. So long story short, I hopped a ride, got up to Anchorage, Alaska, and it was in late May, June of 1977, I believe it was. And so there I am. I'm up in Anchorage, Alaska, making $10 an hour, and I'm looking around, and it was the coolest place on the planet. It was, the sun was up all summer. It'd rise before you could even wake up in the morning, and it'd stay up until, and it's called the land of the midnight sun. So what a wonderful place to go to. Long story short is I went there for the summer and stayed 10 years.
You got the best of both worlds, Montana and Alaska. Like the scenery there is just like, it's surreal.
Yeah, beautiful place.
Yeah.
And then for me, what happened was winter came. Now, I'm from Montana. Winters are hard there. So snow and cold wasn't the deal, but what the wild card was the darkness.
Yes.
So in the summer, it's the land of the midnight sun. In the winter, the sun just doesn't ever come up. And I was in a port city. I was living in Anchorage, Alaska. So, it's by the ocean, so it's foggy, and even days when the sun would come up for a few hours, it was hazy. And, that's very depressive. And it really kind of, you had to figure that out. And so I was able to kind of overcome that and kind of get through the whole scenario, because I really liked living there. It was a young person state. That was the thing that attracted me to it, is that there was a lot of energy, excitement. I got to Anchorage when it was about 50,000 people. And at its height, it grew to 250,000 people. And during my time there, I was putting myself through college at the college there in Anchorage, UAA, and University of Alaska Anchorage, and had a great experience doing that. But I also learned about commerce at the time. There was a group of guys who were putting together a chain restaurant. It was called Seafood Restaurants of Alaska. Specifically, it was a Skipper seafood chain. We took that from one restaurant to 5. Made a ton of money doing it. Again, just a wonderful experience. But I learned a lot about business and operating a business and doing all of that.
Yeah, most definitely. It feels like everything happened for a reason with the scholarship canceling right before. It's like you trusted the universe and it took you where you were supposed to be. And Alaska is such a cool place to be. Did you develop any like hobbies or interests while you were there that you still kind of implement today, or?
Yeah, the thing about it is I can remember those years very vividly, and it was almost like we worked 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days. It was, I immersed myself in the business, my part of the ownership of that business and all the success that it brought. And it was an amazing thing. I was young. I was strong. I had a strong will. I wanted to make things happen. And then 1987 came around. And so anybody who's kind of aware of different market cycles and different economic cycles, 1987 was not a good year financially. And so this economic engine that we had built that was, looked like it was just going to go on forever, stopped. And when I mean stopped, it dropped to about 50% of the overall volume. So that's a game-changing economic reality. And so we wrote the budget for 1988, and it just didn't make any sense to be as top-heavy as we were with ownership and management. And so I said, hey, I'm done. I can move from here. I can take off. But the impetus behind it is that in that period of time that I lived in Anchorage, I met my wife and we got married in 1983. And here's the kicker, I think, that is so funny, is that I'm a farm boy from Montana, living in Alaska. And I meet a lady from Merritt Island, Florida. Now, how does someone from Merritt Island, Florida get to Anchorage, Alaska? And that's usually the question that I get at that point is that really, where did that come from?
Yeah, it's like right there.
And the short answer is that she graduated from high school. A couple days later, she was on an airplane going to Anchorage, Alaska to spend the summer with her cousin. And she too decided at the time that, oh, this is a great place. I kind of like it. I'm going to stay around as well. And so we met and courted for a couple of years, got married in 1983. And to move the story along a little bit, we both left Alaska at the same time in 1988. We end up in Southern California, of all places, right? And decided then that we wanted to start a family. And our daughter was born. She's a New Year's baby, so January 1st of 1991.
Happy birthday to her.
Yeah, just celebrated her birthday and all that's going on, and have a grandbaby now. She's already 8 years old, so that's all progressed. But what happened for us at that point is that we decided, geez, what are we going to do now? We're going to raise a family. Do we want to be in Southern California? Do we want to be, where do we want to end up? And ultimately, we ended up coming back to Merritt Island. We got to Merritt Island in 1993. So daughter was 2 years old, got back to Merritt Island in 1993. And lo and behold, we've been here ever since.
That's amazing. It's just it's so awesome to hear how, just like I said earlier, how the universe just happens. It's incredible. So, Ken, when did you begin working in the financial planning industry? Tell us about the progression and how you came to build Pinnacle Financial Wealth Management.
Sure.
And just like to get you now.
Yeah, the decision to move to Merritt Island, Florida had that challenge in front of it. It was the whole idea that when we got here, it was like, what do you do with your life now? Mm-hmm. And, I'd always been kind of a fix-it guy, a guy that could go into businesses and help kind of fix and grow and put the business models together and so on. And I got here to Florida and to Merritt Island and realized that that's as I said, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days. What's interesting about being involved in the restaurant business, whether you own them or operate them, and I did that for the vast majority of my life at that point, is that you are going to be tied to the way that business operates, and there's a singularity to it that's important, and that is that these businesses operate much better when the ownership or highly incentivized management are on premise and watching what's going on day to day. And that's a huge commitment to do it right and be successful with it. The other thing I think is interesting about being in that business is that your busiest times are when everyone else is having their fun.
Yeah.
We just came off of, Thanksgiving, just to go back to Thanksgiving for a moment. The busiest dinner hour for the typical restaurants in America are the night before Thanksgiving.
The restaurant.
I find that to be interesting when I explain that to people, because they go, that's the busiest one of the year. Why would that be? Because all the ladies are saying, get the heck out of the house. We're cooking for tomorrow. We're not cooking for dinner tonight. The professionals are off work. And all those things were going on. So and then you follow through the holiday season, the Fridays and Saturdays, there's Christmas parties and things going on. And so all kinds of events that you can host and so on. And you're staying up late and getting up early and trying to take care of that. And I just came to the realization that if I want to be there for my family, and if I want to be there as my daughter grows up and ultimately my granddaughter today, then I've got to just change. I got to get out of this labor-intensive business and involve myself in something different. And at the time, the John Hancock was hiring for middle management. They were looking for to expand their offices in Cocoa Beach. So I hired on with the company. And just because of the work ethic, learned it very quickly, realized that there's a tremendous parallel between customer service in the restaurant business and taking care of people in financial services. You first have to like people. You have to get to know people. You have to understand what your business is and being able to explain that to them. And so there you have it. It just was a conscious change that the most important person in my life is me. I've got to take care of me, and I've got to be there for everyone else around me. And that was 1997. And so here we are in 2023, and I moved on from the John Hancock to private practice in the year 2000. That was a planned demutualization by the company. So I decided to go off on my own, and has worked out great ever since.
That's amazing. And I love that you decided to selfishly just remove yourself from that position just to be there for your family and your kids and be able to watch them grow. Like, that is just incredible. And you said you wanted to think about you first and put you first, but in all seriousness, you put your family first. And that just shows what kind of person you are. And that's pretty incredible. Pretty incredible. So
Yeah.
yeah. So Ken, I know right now you work with pre-retirees and retirees. Do you have a mission statement?
Well, I think that there's not really a formal mission statement as much as the way that we talk about how we take care of our clients. The first question that I kind of get back to when I think about, what segment of this industry do we want to work with? And I love working with retirees because, well, that's where the wealth is. That's where the need is. We do pro bono work that's associated with folks that need to get out of debt and maybe need to make smart financial decisions. But where the heavy lifting is where someone is contemplating retirement. They may be in retirement. It may be in retirement on purpose, or it may be bestowed upon them because of a health issue in the family or their own health, or maybe some downsizing with their company. And all those kinds of things are. So I think one of the first things is that we understand that we are in the people business.
Yeah.
And that is part of that mission statement is that it's very, very important, I think, that we understand that we are the resource that our clients are looking for to answer the questions that they have about retirement. Mm-hmm. And to be able to show up and make that happen, we've got to understand what their challenges are. The number one question that's asked by baby boomers today is, when do I take Social Security? Mm-hmm. And so, and that can vary. It can vary depending on health issues, whether you're married or not married, and so on. But that's the number one question they ask, and it's an afterthought in many financial plans. So in other words, I've had people referred into the office, and I'll give them, my thoughts about Social Security based on their fact pattern, and most of the time they have gotten information that is just not relevant to them. Like, I want to take it at age 62, and I'll tell them, well, if you take it at age 62, you're giving up about 25% of what you're due.
Right.
And they go, well, what do you mean by that? I just want to take it early. Okay, well, you can do that, but how does it fit financially for you? So, the other part of that mission statement is not only are we in the people business, but what we do is we don't really talk to people about what they should be thinking. What we really try to help them to understand is how to think about making financial decisions. And the how part of that, just to carry the story for a moment with Social Security, is you paid all this money in for all these years, and you're entitled now to Social Security. And then I take a time out and say, are you really entitled to it? No, you're not. That's your money. You put it aside. They've taken it out of your check. And I can vividly remember back when I got my first paycheck, my first real check. And I'll never forget it because it was $100. That's what I expected to get. And when I got my check, it was like, I don't know, $87 or something. And I'm like, what's this? Where's the rest of my money? And then it was explained, Social Security and whatever else was being deducted from it. And I thought, well, what a con game this is. I made a paycheck, And now I've got to give this before I ever get my money. I've got to give it to the government first. I paid attention to that. That made an indelible impression on me. And that's the world of taxes.
Yep.
So, another one of the things is not only how to think about money, like I'm giving something up with Social Security and I could get something if I delay it. And is that in my best interest? That's a part of it. But the other part is that what are the other costs? Taxes. Taxes are, it's an amazing amount of money that filters from the typical retiree, the worker to begin with, and the typical retiree. And we want to pay attention to that. We don't want to do anything that's illegal or wrong, but we want to pay the least amount of taxes possible, whatever is legal and ethical for us to do. So, that demonstrates a couple of areas where we're really trying to help our retirees and our pre-retirees on how to think about money. So we care about people first, and then we help them to determine how they should be thinking about making financial decisions. And they should have a process to do that. And that's the next phase that we get into, is the process of making that financial decision. And that's a shared event. So there you have it. That's the first half of what our mission is, the way that we take care of our clients.
That is awesome. And you know that I absolutely love having these Facebook Lives with you. I just feel like you bring such ease into these conversations. And I feel like the biggest thing that people face, pre-retirement, is fear. And you help just ease all of that in. With these Facebook Lives, I can appreciate you moving forward and starting podcasts, which is awesome, because you're such an educational speaker. And can you just kind of give us a little more insight on these upcoming podcasts, when it launches, where to listen?
Yeah, so over the years, we've always said we have, our clients refer their friends and family into the firm. That's always been, just a huge. We really appreciate that. We know the trust, the risk there is, especially with money. I mean, money is just such a touchy subject. Many times it's difficult to talk about, and so we've always loved that. And part of that really is, how do we explain what we do so someone can get a snapshot of who we are before they ever, commit to come in and talk to someone, person to person, and talk about, these are difficult questions that we have to ask. We have to talk to people about their health and their financial scenarios, where they're getting their cash flow. I mean, this is personal and sometimes deeply personal questions. And it may not be appropriate the first time that we've met to do that, but it's helpful to be able to get some sense about what that's like. And I always like the idea of doing podcasts, because there's great podcasts out there. I've listened to, and I've learned a lot from the podcasts, the guys and gals and firms that put together pertinent information. I mean, valuable information. And I thought, well, how much fun would it be to do that, and then be able to present this information in such a easygoing way, so that people could, kind of measure it up a little bit, get an idea of what it would be like to sit with someone and talk to them about the tough questions and the difficult decisions about making financial decisions. The Social Security one, I think, is a great one. Presented correctly, we can see that there's something you give up and then something you gain. Doesn't make it worth your in your best interest, but at least you begin to quantify it. And then you can begin to put it into the process that I spoke about making this decision. And I just think that the whole idea of podcasting and having those recorded interviews and conversations and discuss it and allow for people to internalize it a little bit. And so we're going to launch. We've been putting together our podcast, and we're going to launch that live on January 24th, I believe it is. So just coming up in a couple of weeks, we'll be doing a launch on that, and we're going to get into tons and tons of fun stuff, specifics. And be able to go over all the subjects I think that are important. I mean, healthy lifestyle, I think is very, very important in and what the retirement lifestyle would look like,
especially now. So
yeah, absolutely. So there you have it.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to it. I can't wait to listen to your podcasts. Is it through your website? What is the easiest way to stay tuned with your podcast?
Yeah. So they'll be on the website, and so that website will contain all the recorded podcasts, and then the upcoming new podcasts that are going to be available. And it will, it's just really designed to allow for someone at their leisure. It might be 10 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock in the morning to listen to it and get some sense about what this would be like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the most important thing for me listening to podcasts. It's you can listen to it at any time of your day. So mine is usually, I'm a mom of 3, and it's usually like making dinner or cleaning up. It's there listening as I'm doing things. So yeah, no, podcasts that's all I ever do. I feel like it's a new way of life.
Yeah. And it really is. It's a whole new way. To me, it's the maybe new age kind of thing, cutting edge kind of a strategy to do it. It's new for me, but it seems to be that it's the way that we're moving is make it easy for people. I mean, look, you can listen to it and go back and listen to it again and, make some notes or listen to it and see if it even matters. And if it doesn't, you can, move on to the next one or go a different direction. So that's the flexibility I think that people are looking for today about how to learn and get their knowledge.
Keyword flexibility.
Yeah.
Yes, of your time. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Well, Ken, it's been an absolute pleasure. Been an absolute pleasure getting to know who you were, where you came from, how you grew up. So thank you so much for sharing that information with all of us. I feel like it's important for us to get to know you on a personal level. So I appreciate you opening up.
You bet. Absolutely. Thanks for allowing me to do that. Sure.
Absolutely. So I'm totally looking forward to your podcast coming up. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. And Ken, until next time.
Thanks, Gina. Good being with you today.
Yes, absolutely.